whenever I've told my friends, they're like, "Oh, really? That's so brave." I was like, "That's not helping me. That's not helping me." You're supposed to say, "Oh, you're going to do really well." Not "That's brave." That's kind of implying that I'm taking a massive risk.
Hey everyone, I hope you are as excited as I am to hear this interview talking to Amardeep Parmar, one of Medium's fastest growing, most successful writers. He is sharing everything. He is bearing his very soul to us in this interview, discussing how he grew his side hustle enough to quit his day job, when he knew quitting his day job was the right time, and how he gained the courage to do that, because it's a big step, as we all know. I took so many notes during this interview. If you've got any questions, let us know. Enjoy the interview. Okay, I am so excited to be interviewing Amar. Longtime viewers will know this is the second time I've had the pleasure. Newer viewers, you might not know, Amar is one of the best writers on Medium today. You started in like 2020. And yeah, I don't think it's like bragging or exaggerating to say that. And you grew tremendously quickly. You have gained like I think 30,000 followers in like a year and a half. Definitely one of the fastest like newbies on the platform. And the subject of this interview is you have quit your day job in part thanks to Medium and the opportunities that Medium has brought you. And you're going full time investing in yourself. And I'm so excited to interview you, ask you all these questions. And I want to help people watching this. I want to help you figure out when you know is the right time for you to quit your job and like dedicate yourself to yourself. How to build up the confidence to take that big step, because I know from personal experience it can be scary. How you plan on scaling up, like are you with all your free time, what are you gonna do? And I also want to talk about the backup plan. So I know personally, like I have a kind of contingency plan if everything goes pear-shaped here. And I'd love to talk to you about what you've got. So before we get into everything, can you give me like a quick summary of who you are, what you do on Medium, and what led you to quit your job? Go.
Okay, so hi everyone. So I'm Amar. So I've been writing on Medium for about a year and a half. Studied economics, and I've been working in tech consulting for about 7 years. And like alongside that, I've done lots of other things such as dance, martial arts, yoga, obstacle course races. So I kind of like throwing myself into different challenges. And Medium was just meant to be another one of those challenges in a way, where it was a New Year's resolution, the end of 2019. Let's have a go at doing some writing, and then I didn't think anything would come of it. I thought nobody would pay any attention to what I had to say, and I was wrong, I guess. 30,000 something followers later. So on Medium, I write about mainly entrepreneurship and like mindfulness, and kind of the mixture of the two of them, and how they contradict each other in some ways, but also complement each other in others. And that's what I'm trying to interplay between. I'm also the editor of Entrepreneur's Handbook on Medium, so that's another thing that I've done there. And it's kind of grown quite rapidly over the year, which again I just really didn't expect. So I didn't start a Medium with the plans of quitting my job. It's something which over time I started looking at as being like, this is a decent sum of income, and I'm being able to do this while doing it on the side. What's the potential if I did this full time? And that kind of question started nagging at me maybe from around September, October time. But it wasn't until maybe December that I was like, okay, I need to have a proper think here. And for me, the big trouble was I had always kind of done the very traditional path. Got good grades at school, got good grades at university, got a professional job in the city. And to quit my job and become an online entrepreneur seemed very different to that. And whenever I've told my friends, they're like, "Oh, really? That's so brave." I was like, "That's not helping me. That's not helping me." You're supposed to say, "Oh, you're going to do really well." Not "That's brave." That's kind of implying that I'm taking a massive risk. But I can completely see why they think that. So making the decision was a real battle for me. It was a long time of me, should I do it? Should I not do it? And even today or yesterday, I was like, oh, have I made the right choice? And it really came down to, what do I actually want from life? Like, what am I working for? Am I just doing it just to get promotions and so I get more money, but I have no time? Whereas writing, what it could potentially allow me to do is live the kind of Zuli lifestyle of become very good at what you do, so you don't have to work so many hours, and then you've got lots of free time to do whatever you want, really. So in a way, Zuli's inspired me to do what I'm doing.
Yeah, I mean, I do love what I do, and I think that's the really great part about Medium is I joined same as you, zero expectations, had a vague idea I might make a couple of dollars writing about my cats, and like, I mean, I think honestly, I don't want to get too sappy here, but what you've done is so inspiring to me as well. Like the way you've grown, the way you've dedicated yourself. Because I always bring you up as an example to people who think that you need to write like every single day on Medium. From the beginning, you only wrote a very few times a week because you were balancing a full-time job, and you didn't only make it work, you succeeded. Like, I mean, you've got more followers than I do. I know you've had most of your income has been higher than mine on most months, I think. And yeah, what you do is just fantastic. So I want to go back to that moment in September because I think a lot of people, they think of like going to a new, going fully freelance is the risk. A lot of people don't think of staying at the job as also a potential risk because it's an opportunity cost. So was it just the money? Was there something else going on? Because like you could have kept going the way you were going, doing work and writing on the side. What made you think like I can't do both? I need to choose one.
I think it was where, so the pandemic is ending, or it's ending in the UK, so things are opening up again, and it looks like we're going to be able to go to pretty much back to normal life soon. So in that time, then before I had work in lockdown, I had work, then I had time to myself, and then I could do the writing. But once the social life comes back into it, and this might make me quite different to many of the other writers on the platform who are very introverted, whereas I'm somebody who would like to go out multiple times a week, so I would find it impossible to balance that where I wanted to get an article done on the weekend, and that's fine when I don't have a social life. But when I have a social life, then it's like, oh, do I want to go to my friend's birthday party or do I want to write an article? And to me, that's putting a lot of strain onto what's the point of all of this? And I do want to be sucked into that culture of working for the sake of working, where I had to make a choice basically between 2 out of 3, my day job, the writing and other side hustles, or a social life. And it was work that lost that argument.
I love that out of like social passion and work is like bottom of that list. That's something I relate to so hard.
But I also realise I'm very lucky in that I've been working for multiple years, so I've got the savings to take this risk. Um, and it was always, to me as well, I was like, what is the point of me saving up money and working hard for all these years if I'm never going to take a risk or if I'm never going to make the leap and trust myself? Because otherwise you'll just keep saving and saving, but you're never actually pulling the trigger.
So it sounds like there were a couple of different factors. I think it's so funny and so true, honestly, that you're like, I want to hang out with my friends. I'm going to quit my job. Because I think a lot of people, like growing up, I always thought I had to have like a dream job. And every job I've gone into, I've thought, this is it. This is what I want to do. And at the end of the day, for me, work is work. And like, no matter how much I get along with the people there, no matter how fulfilling the work itself is, for me, my dream job is not working, spending time with my friends, hanging out with my cats. And I think it's so it's being very true to yourself to say, no, you know what, actually, I'm gonna do what I love and I'm gonna take a risk and I'm gonna hang out with my friends, and that's why I don't want to work, because I want to spend time having fun. That's
And going to the gym during the day as
Oh my
well.
gosh, yeah.
That's going to be
So
nice.
nice.
Avoiding the crowds.
Oh, crowded gyms are the worst. So 100% feel you. So you've kind of touched on this, but I want to talk about how to build up the confidence to, yeah, take that plunge, hand in your notice, and say, I believe in myself so much that I will turn away a lot of benefits. Because I know in the UK, obviously, you've got universal healthcare. But for me here in the States, that was a huge consideration because I was like, here, employment is tied to healthcare. I'm lucky that I'm under the age of 26, so I'm actually still on my parents. Thank you, mom and dad. But that's something I'm going to have to start thinking about in a few months. So I know for you, it was like the 401k, I'm sure, or the UK equivalent. How did you build up the confidence to say, I'm going to do so well, I'm going to be so successful that it's worth turning away that stable job and benefits?
Yeah, and I think savings did help definitely, because I was like, worst case scenario, let's say I'm not earning any money, I'm not going to be on the streets. So that is always kind of a nice thing to know at the back of your head. And it's also kind of looking at if I'm able to more or less match my income whilst doing it part-time, not even part-time, like less than that, then if I'm completely let free, I should be able to increase my income much more than that. So if I could match my full-time salaried income, then the idea being, and it's not guaranteed, who knows what's going to happen, but I should be able to beat that, and it's not unreasonable. And I think that's what I was kind of getting around. And I talked to a lot of people. I talked to my parents, I talked to like family, friends, and what I was kind of going through is very logical in terms of, okay, this is what I'm earning at the moment. These are the amount of hours I'm spending. These are opportunities I'm turning down. That was another big thing, is I was turning a lot of opportunities down because I didn't have the time. And there's a lot of things that I wanted to try out that I couldn't. And that's part of trying to balance a side hustle and a day job. So if I could then take on those opportunities, and even on a few of those, if they were like led to more things, that would then take me on this path where it would be worth it. And it's always the idea, like I said, the fallback plan is that I can always go back and get a job again. I think many employers will respect what I've been able to achieve outside, and the skills I built up in my day job, it's not easy to replace me. And I've kept a good relationship with my company, all that kind of thing. So I do think that, let's say the worst case scenario, that like Medium shut down and I no longer had any income from any of the side hustles, and all of a sudden I lost my entire network, and there's a hell of a lot of things that have to go wrong for me to not be able to make any money at all. So that's the kind of idea. The actual amount of income I need per month to cover my basic expenses isn't huge. So I can afford to take a bit of time out and to see what I can do and let it grow.
Mm-hmm. So I want to quickly talk about, like, because I think you've mentioned something that I think is so important. You said like you left on good terms with your company. I think a lot of people see what you've done and what I've done, and they the motivation to do that is because, you know, they hate their job, or, you know, they're afraid, or they're driven by like a negative emotion, whereas I think you were driven by positive emotions. It's you enjoy your job, you like it, but you were optimistic, you were hopeful, you were like really, I don't want to sound cliche here, but you're proud of yourself and what you've accomplished, rightfully so. So you're driven by a lot of positive emotions that I think really helped you build up the confidence to take that plunge and say that you are going to invest in yourself and take that risk on yourself. Although, as you've pointed out, it's not a risk because a lot of things would have to go wrong for you to like fail. You have a really good base. So I wanted to ask, would you recommend that people who want to follow in your footsteps, would you recommend that they try to build up their side hustles income to match, or at least like cover their basic costs before they quit?
Yeah, I'd say like at the basic level, if they can at least meet their like monthly requirements of like paying their rent, paying their bills, that kind of thing, that's kind of basic. But what I did is kind of, I wanted to see that I had staying power, because it's quite easy to be a one-hit wonder or a two-hit wonder. And that's why I was scared I was at the beginning of Medium. So seeing some consistency, that lets you make a bit more of an informed decision. So I wouldn't suggest anybody quits their job after 3 good months of Medium. You might want to wait a little bit longer and have that. So I maybe had I think it was probably, I was doing well from the beginning more or less, but it was probably since July or June last year, where I was like, this is doing like significantly well. So, and that took me 9 months of that to then eventually quit my job.
Right. So it was not a spontaneous decision. It was something you went into with a lot of, like, it was in the back of your mind, you were saying, from what, 6 or 9 months ago. Yeah. And then it's just been something that you've been thinking about, and, you know, calculating your expenses, building your network, making sure that you did have that safety net in place, which is considerable, because I read one of your earlier viral articles about how you've gained, I think it's like $40,000 in passive income from investments, which is, very interesting and very cool. So let's talk about then what the future is going to look like. I happen to know, because I'm your friend in real life, that you're handing in, this is so embarrassing, I've forgotten. Is it June 24th?
15th.
So you've got, what, like less than a month of working days. What's life going to look like for you after you quit? What's your plan?
So I quit on so last day is the 15th, and then 2 days later, I fly to Lisbon to sit on the beach for a week and just completely chill out.
Love that for you.
I think the most important thing to me is to make sure that I'm not going from one hamster wheel straight onto another one, because I think it's quite easy to do that where you quit and then all of a sudden you're working the same amount of hours all over again and you're putting so much pressure on yourself. So when I have that week off where I just really think about things without all of the kind of inputs I get in my daily life, because I've got the day job, then I also talk to a lot of people and I've got my friends and there's just so much things coming into my brain. So I want that week off where I'm chilling out, I maybe use my phone for half an hour a day, if that, and it's just me sitting there and thinking, what do I want? Mm-hmm. So initially, like, it's increasing my volume on Medium a little bit to see like how that works and whether or not that leads to greater improvements. But it's also exploring the other medias as well, because I quite enjoy talking, if people haven't realised. So doing more visual content and audio content and seeing where I can go with that. And again, I'm in the lucky position where I can experiment a bit. I don't need to have something pay off initially. So I want to kind of do that early on, like try ghostwriting, try freelancing, try these different things out. And it's not necessarily that that's what I see as my future, but I want to at least give things a go and see if I enjoy it, rather than make a decision based on what I think it will be like. Because I might find that like something which I didn't really consider very much is my calling, and I do a couple of jobs of that, and that's amazing.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm going to try and do early on, is just protect myself a bit, and also not get into any major projects is one thing I'm trying to avoid, because then it can kind of suck up all your time. I want to have that freedom to experiment and dabble and see, oh, let me do a little bit of that, let me do a little bit of this, and see what comes of it. Because I think some people lock themselves into a project straight away, and then so you're basically back in your day job again. You don't have any of your freedom.
That's something I think that, like, you've been so consistent with this throughout the whole time that I've known you, and you've been thinking about this, is you've been trying to be as logical about this as possible, and like not removing emotions, but you've been so honest with yourself about what you want and how you're going to pursue that. So like, yeah. you're not your safety net, and like I think your personal characteristics have given you this way of looking at things and not worrying or not fearing that you're going to not succeed. And it's given you the freedom to experiment a little bit, see what works, see what doesn't, see what you enjoy, so you don't get sucked into something that you accidentally hate, or that you're spending more time on than you would at your day job, which I think makes a lot of sense. And I would advise any other freelancers who are thinking about taking this step, don't let yourself get sucked into like another content mill, or like you're just worried you're cranking out content because you're coming from a place of fear or jealousy or anxiety. Whereas you're like motivated by, I'm so excited, I'm so thrilled to step back and see what I want to do, which is so cool.
Yeah, because there's a lot of things I haven't been able to try because I just know I don't have the time. So to have that time now, it's like, oh, let me try this.
Give me some examples. What are you excited about?
Oh God, I've got it all. You can see it here, right? So I've got my I used to have one notebook, but then I can't organize myself very well. So I've literally got 5 notebooks of different things about me trying to plan my time and what I'm going to do. And I think initially one of the big things is looking at maybe not a podcast initially, but a podcast kind of later down the line. But looking at YouTube content, for example, because I think YouTube is another pillar, and it's one of those things I think you mentioned in one of your articles recently. I've got a big competitive advantage in that kind of thing because I'm a native English speaker, I've got a professional background, all this kind of stuff, and I'm confident on the camera. So it's why not explore that bit and see what I can do there? And I'm probably moving away from some of the writing in a way, because I think it's quite easy to, I've never really considered myself as somebody who wanted to be a writer their entire life. It was just a way of getting my ideas across. Mm-hmm. So I'm looking at what other ways I can get my ideas across without putting myself into a box of being a writer, because I know there's lots of other people who are way better than I am, and also are much more interested in the craft of writing itself. Mm-hmm. So I didn't really necessarily want to go down that same path, because there's so many people doing great jobs like yourself. I don't want to do that same thing again, because I know there's already great people doing it.
So interesting to talk to you, because I think I am writing because that's where I'm coming from. I want to write. I love writing, and YouTube and everything else kind of happened by accident because I learned along the way that I also enjoy communicating and teaching and talking to myself in front of a camera. But it's so interesting that you started almost the opposite. Like you've got all these cool, interesting ideas, you want to convey them, and writing was just that medium that worked, medium, no pun intended, that worked for you at that time. And now that you've got the bandwidth, really, you're going to talk about. I'm so excited for your podcast and your YouTube channel. So, what direction are you going in? Because I know you do a lot of mindfulness stuff. Is that going to be the new kind of content that you're focusing on?
Yeah, I think so. It's I guess what I'm trying to build as well is that kind of personality where, for some reason, people want to listen to me about different topics. Um, so it's like looking at mindfulness, is looking at just how it can work in everyday life. Because I think sometimes a lot of the stuff out there can be really unrealistic, and people can't actually follow through with it. So that's what I'm going to try and do is building that relatability of advice that's actually actionable, and actually makes people think a bit about how their perception is.
That's been something that's been one of your like hallmarks in my mind from your writing, and I assume this is going to transfer over to any kind of communication channel, is that you're very much no nonsense. Like you look at the existing body of work and you say 95% of this is garbage. I know why it's garbage. I'm going to tell you why it's garbage. I'm going to tell you what you can do better. And I find like a lot of mindfulness writers tend to be, not anybody I know personally, but a lot of the mindfulness content I've read on the web is kind of wishy-washy, very aspirational, very much like, yeah, it's not realistic. And all of the content that you give is realistic, it's actionable, it's valuable, and it's a little snarky almost, which is something that I love about your writing. So I'm
You've got to
interested
have
to
a
see.
little sass.
I love the sass. I'm really keen to see how that's going to translate to audio and video, because it's so clear in the writing. So I imagine it's going to come through even more strongly, like when I can hear your sassy tone and see your sassy face. But yeah, I can't wait. So okay, now I want to talk about like the fallback, the if everything does go pear shaped, because you've mentioned, like you said, a lot of stuff has to go wrong for this to not pan out, and it's unlikely that it will. But I know you're a little bit like me, and you want to have that worst case scenario just in case. So I mean, what's going to be the trigger for you to say, okay, actually, this has been a fun experiment, but I'm packing it up and I'm going back to a 9 to 5.
I think what I'm planning to do is give myself at least a year, no matter what. And even if that's not me making a ton of money, it's just me relaxing, then me taking a bit of a rest. I've worked for a while now. The job I have for consulting, you can have quite long hours. It can be quite stressful. And it's me kind of taking a step back and just enjoying life a bit for a while and then going back into it again, because I'm at the stage of my life where it's like I don't have kids, I don't have a family, so I can take this kind of almost selfish step and see if it works out now. Whereas if I had the responsibilities, if I needed to put food on the table for 3 kids or 5 kids or whatever it is. But yeah, like people have got a Brady Bunch, right? So if they've got like a dozen kids, they can't just quit their job to see if they can make it online as a content creator, right? They've got that extra pressure, whereas I don't have that. So I can give myself this year and to see what happens, and I think it'll come down to more about whether or not I'm enjoying the lifestyle, because what happens is I might be making more money like in this than I do my day job, but who knows, I might miss colleagues, I might miss the office environment, I might want to have that in my life again. So that's a kind of main mitigating factor for me, is that I haven't lived this lifestyle yet, so I don't know if the grass is really greener here yet. So I'm being quite open about that in terms of not believing like I have to be successful in this has to work no matter what, because I might find that it's not actually what makes me happy.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a really good point. I think a lot of people have this kind of like built-in impression that once they take this big risk, they can't fail. So they keep doing it even though maybe they don't enjoy it. Like, I'll be honest, this week I've had a bit of a tough one with a lot of work where I've done a lot more than 15 hours work this week, which is what I normally aim for. And I'm like, I have had those moments where I'm like, is it worth it? Is this what I want? Where if I want to earn more money, I have to do more work? Like, can I get off the treadmill? And then normally what happens is I wake up the next day and I'm like, wait a minute, I love what I'm doing. Why would I question that? But I think a lot of people like me might be afraid to feel like we've somehow failed or that we've given up on our dream. And I love that you're so, I guess, honest with yourself and that, like, yeah, this is your dream for now, but you might find that it's not at all to your taste, and that's okay. I think that's really cool.
Yeah, like I'm hoping I don't find that out in the first week, because that would be a bit of a hassle. But hopefully it takes me like a few months, and then I decide, oh, maybe not, this is me. But it is a different lifestyle, right? When it's like you said, it's you've got to be putting the effort to get it done. There's no team around you. There's no things to fall back on. If you're sick for a while, if you can't do any work, you can't get paid. So yeah, that's just something which I think also people need to consider, is that it's not always perfect on the other side. Where some people can dream like, oh, I'm going to quit my job and I'm going to do this and it's going to be amazing. What about if it's not? You can't build up that highly, because then it's more disappointing when it happens. Like, have your expectations a little bit lower and then be pleasantly surprised rather than let down.
Yeah, I think there is so much like idealistic imagery built up around the freelance lifestyle. Like, I'll be honest, I thought I would be like, drinking mimosas on the beach as I casually typed, ignoring the reality that you can't type in the sunshine because you can't see your screen. But that's what I was envisioning. I was myself on a beach writing an article, and that's just not reality for a number of different reasons. And yeah, it's definitely a good point to be realistic and maybe even a little. I don't want to use the word pessimistic, but like a little, yeah, lowering your expectations about what this new change is going to bring, so you don't get caught up in the idealism of living your dream job. Because again, as you've been really clear, the pivot is not because of you loving your dream job as writing. It's because you want to hang out with your friends, and it's more fun to do that with writing than with your job, it sounds like, which is, yeah, totally cool. And yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing some friends myself when we're officially out of lockdown. Yeah, so I do want to just say, like, your final point about giving yourself a year. I think it's so important that you have that slack, that you have the sort of safety net of your family, your friends, your existing and sizable savings account, where you do have the bandwidth, not the bandwidth, the space, I guess, to explore your options and experiment and play around and give yourself room to actually feel how you're feeling, instead of being caught up in the worry or the indecision about what you want to do next. Is that something you'd always planned on, giving yourself a year?
I don't know. I think it actually came out from when I was telling my boss my plans were, and like, because obviously like I'd been there for a long time, so it was very pleasant. Like, they took it really well, to be honest, and it was really nice that they were kind of happy for me that I was going to chase this. And it was kind of when I was talking, I was like, oh, like I think, because he was saying like, is this what you plan to do forever, or what's your longer term plans? And I kind of came out of it on the spot. I was like, oh, that's quite realistic for me, actually, really, that a year or so until next summer, I guess, that would be a good amount of time. And I guess I was thinking a year is a solid amount of time, because if you say a month or 2 months,
There's so much that
it
can
can still be
happen
the
that's out
honeymoon
of your
period.
control. Yeah, it's so
A
variable.
year is like there, like that's you know by then if you like it or not.
Yeah, 100%. I think, oh, yeah, it's like there's only so much you can control. Like, imagine if you had done this, I don't know, 2 years ago and then COVID hit. Like, there are so many factors that are not
Yeah.
not that you can control or affect in any way. And yeah, doing the year, I think, is smart to give room for those waves that are inevitably going to happen. Like, yeah, you might get a cold, you want to go on vacation, you get an amazing job, you lose the amazing job. These things happen in the freelance lifestyle, and yeah, you don't want to give yourself just a month to decide whether or not. But yeah, the last thing I want to touch on, I really want to highlight this. At both ends of this, you've had a specific deadline, and this is something I recommend to everyone. Don't just wait for the right moment to quit your job or quit your freelance lifestyle. Build in a deadline for you to make a decision, because otherwise, like, I know I would be just liable to be passively carried on until something happened to me, rather than me deciding to make a choice and say, yes, I want to do this, or yes, I want to continue. Like, especially, I think for me, the most important thing was like having a deadline to review my job and say, yes, is this,
Yeah.
am I going to stay? Am I going to go? But it needs to be a decision. It can't just be going with the flow forever. And it's interesting that you've done that the same. Sorry?
I took a week off. I took a week off work, and kind of really sat down, wrote down everything. Really kind of went through the logic and how I feel and what I think would make me happier. And actually, like, did like a presentation to my family, like, look, this is what I think. This is how I think it could work out. This is the stuff I want to do. This is why I think it will be better than whatever. And I did it quite formally in a way, because like, look, I was almost pitching it to them, like, do you think this is the right decision or not? Like, this is which way I'm leaning. Can you spot any holes in this? Can you think of anything that I'm not considering? Because I wouldn't want to quit and then realize, oh, I hadn't thought about this, and that's changes everything, right? Because for me, like, I've got a lot of attachment to my current company because I've been there for so long. So like, I'm gonna go to like their weddings and all that kind of stuff. Like, they've been friends for like a long time. Some of these people that I work with. So I really needed that space of like, it took a week to just sit there and just really think, and said by the end of the week I'm gonna make a decision. And then I called a meeting with my manager on the Monday when I got back. Because otherwise, if it's just in the back of your head, it's really hard to get to that solid moment, because you're just like swinging one way or the other, and it just kind of goes on for a long time. And that's what's happening to me, where I didn't quite get to the tipping point. I was like, yes, I'm really confident to go now, until I took the week off.
Yeah. I remember when you took that week off and you came back and you're like, I'm doing it. It's happening. This is going to be the thing. That was really cool. Yeah. What an incredible masterclass on how to quit your day job. Like, everything from the lead up, the decision, the plans for coming after, and like weighing up when it's right, if it's ever right to go back to a day job. This has been incredible, and I've taken so many notes that I'm going to paste in the video description for the highlights. Any final tips, any last words of wisdom for people who are on the fence, hedging their bets, not really sure what to do?
I'd say don't quit because you think it's going to solve all your problems. Like, try to really like sit down and do the logic of it as well, and like talk to people and just give them what your concerns are, all this kind of stuff, because you don't want to make it on pure emotion and then regret it. So like, really just be like, this is what I think, this is what's important to me, this is why I like my day job, this is why I like the writing. So that when you make that decision, it's not just like a snap thing. You're like, no, like, I know that I want to do this, and you've got that real confidence. Because like, I think the worst thing that could have happened to me is I quit my job, and then the next week it's like, oh crap, I didn't think about that. Like, oh, like for example, what you said about the 401ks and the pensions and things like that. You don't want to think about that after you've quit, because then it's too late. And like, oh no, I can't afford this anymore. I won't be able to pay for healthcare. That's not a thing you want to think about too late. Like, sit down, and it's also, it makes you much more calm if you've been able to do that. So
yeah, and much
like, look into the detail. The devil's there, really. If you don't look into the detail, you can get caught out.
just like solid sit down and think has made you like better able to weather the sort of waves of indecision. Because like, I know for the past 3 months, as you've made that decision, there have been a lot of weird like medium-based events, like mediums changed to relational medium, and a lot of other stuff that's happened that might have made you wonder, like, am I doing this? And I imagine you went back to that presentation, you were like, yeah, I am doing this, and these are the reasons. It still makes sense.
Yeah, and what I tell myself as well is that if I was planning to do this for a year, like after my last day, then I can't let a small decision now that's been taken by a medium to take me off that path. Like, I've got to just weather it. And like Zulu knows as well, like, I have these little panics every now and again, because it's human, right? Like, I can't be perfectly decisive all the time. It's nice I've got people like Zulu, for example, who I can talk to about this and just go through that process. And often when I'm able to vocalize or say that out loud or type out even, it helps me, because I can see, oh wait, that doesn't make sense for this reason. Like, I guess I'm very good at contradicting myself. So if I make one argument, I also see the negatives as well. And that can swing me back around to some sense.
Yeah, and I mean, I think you touched on something really important. I know this is the last point, and then we'll wrap up. Because I want to say, like, you're not doing this alone. And you watching this, you're not doing this alone either. And I didn't do it alone. It can feel like a very personal decision to quit your job and go freelance. But you're surrounded by your support network. Like, I know I'm relying on my family. I'm relying on friends like you to, help me through those periods of doubt that I do have still to this day, even like half a year after I quit my job. And I know you've been going through the same thing, and I'm glad that we've been able to kind of support each other So rely on your support network. They're there to help you. They believe in you. And yeah, that's I think that's the most important thing people should remember about going freelance. Really exciting. So I know the podcast and the YouTube channel don't yet exist today, but where can people find your work? Where can people hear more from you?
So at the moment, the main place is the Medium, but one place I'm trying to grow out as well is my Instagram. So if you go to my Medium page, it's amardeep.medium.com. I've got all my links there in my first post. So you can find me on Twitter, Instagram there as well. I've got my little online course as well, which if you want to learn about Medium, you can find that as well. My email list is currently on Substack, but I'm planning on changing that soon. So, but you can find all of that through my Medium, or alternatively, you can go to my main website. But again, I've got this shiny object syndrome, so I'm also going to revamp that in the next few weeks. So you can see that in a few weeks' time.
Yeah, I'll put the bio post. That sounds like it'll have all the up-to-date links, and I'll include the Instagram and the course and the email list, and I'll update that as well in the video description when you move over to ConvertKit, I'm guessing?
I'm going to try Ghost.
Oh, fun. Okay, nice. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for talking to me. I'm so excited to see what you're going to be able to do once you don't have the day job taking up most of your free time. And I'm also looking forward to just being able to talk to you more throughout the day instead of having to compete with the 9 to 5. And if you're listening and you're wondering, it's such a personal choice. You really have to do the legwork yourself, but it's possible, it's doable, and it's a really exciting option. So consider it. Amar offered so many good points to consider. And no matter what you choose, best of luck with that path. And until we speak again, happy writing. Bye, everyone.
Bye. Take care.